and Seymour Community Associations, as well as Parkgate Society and Mount Seymour United Church. They very generously let us have this wonderful space for these all candidates meetings. I'm Lorraine Harvey. I'm the chair of the Seymour Community Association, and I'm pleased to be your moderator this evening. With the various associations, I wanted to introduce the people who've been assisting with this event. Eric Anderson, Annie Danielson, don't know if she's here. Is Ted Bancroft here? Okay. And from Seymour, we have Karen Barnett. I don't know if Diane Bennett is here, and Ellen. Okay, I didn't see her. There she is, okay. Greg Lindsay on the timer. Christine Miller on the timer, and Peter T. Van is our tech wizard tonight. Adele Wilson may be here, but I didn't see her yet. So anyway, she's with our executive. So, and from Deep Cove, there's Catherine Fagerland. There she is. She's handing out cards. And Chris Salas is here as well. The candidates, I would like to introduce them. First is Jesse Fulton with People's Party, Terry Beach, Liberal Party of Canada, and Michael Sharwa, NDP. At this point, I would like to say that Mauro Francis, representing the Conservative Party of Canada, was invited to participate in this meeting about 3 weeks ago. And yesterday, I found out that he had a previous commitment and will not be attending tonight. The format of the meeting has been explained to the candidates, but for the benefit of our audience, I will outline it briefly. Candidates will make an opening statement, after which we will start with questions from the organizers. Each of them will answer the question, and they will have 2 minutes to answer. We will then get to your questions, which they will have 2 minutes to answer. And at the end of the meeting, they will have 2 minutes to make their closing statements. Candidates have each given 3 wild cards. And this is famous to the Seymour Community Association and Blueridge meeting, by the way. This is our trademark. And they may use these to rebut the comments made by another candidate. Again, they will have 2 minutes to comment, and the wild cards must be surrendered if they are used. Questions directed to no one in particular will be asked of all candidates in the order of seating, while questions directed toward a particular candidate will be directed to that candidate. Understandably, if too many questions are asked of one individual, it might be difficult for us to be even in how many questions the candidates are answering. All comments are timed. Our timer will turn on the yellow light indicating 15 seconds remaining. Once the red light goes on, candidates will have 5 seconds to conclude, and if they are still speaking at that point, their mic will be turned off. We're pretty vicious about that. We will provide cards on which you may write your questions. If you have your own pen or pencil, please use that. Otherwise, we have some here. Please write legibly. It's often very difficult for our intrepid readers here to figure out what you actually want to say. We reserve the right to edit questions for brevity, relevance, and taste, and to combine questions that are of similar nature. And as we always seem to get more questions than we have time for, please do not be disappointed if your question is not specifically asked. At around 8:30, we will open the floor to questions, and we'll have a roving mic for that purpose. Please keep your questions concise and limit them to about 30 seconds, and make sure that there is a question. Finally, about 9 o'clock, we will wrap up the meeting with closing comments from the candidates. I ask and expect that the audience and the candidates be respectful of one another in the proceedings this evening. So let's get started. This is my favorite question. Hands up those of you who came here tonight not knowing who's going to get your vote. Good. So, okay. So the candidates will now make their opening comments, and I'd like to call on Jesse first.
Party of Canada, I want to talk about the economic challenges we're facing, share a vision for a brighter future for all Canadians. Today, we find ourselves in uncertain times. Rising cost of living, stagnant wages, and increasing inflation are playing significant burdens on families and small businesses. Many of you may be feeling the impact as you strive to make ends meet. In this challenging environment, but despite these obstacles, I believe we have the power to turn our situation around. The PPC are committed to addressing these issues head-on with tangible solutions that resonate with everyday Canadians. Our focus is on empowering individuals while making life more affordable. First, we must recognize the critical importance of trade. Our economy thrives on strong trade relationships, yet tariffs often complicate the landscape and drive up costs for consumers. By implementing a strategy to eliminate these tariffs, we can stimulate economic growth, encourage competition, and ultimately lower prices for essential goods. Additionally, we need to support responsible energy development as a cornerstone of our economic strategy. By advocating for policies that facilitate the efficient export of Canadian energy, we can ensure that energy remains affordable for families while supporting job creation and economic stability. We also recognize the vital role that small businesses play in our communities. These businesses embody the entrepreneurial spirit of our nation and are essential for driving innovation and job creation. We must create an environment where small businesses can succeed. This involves reducing unnecessary regulations and providing support that encourages their growth. Finally, we cannot overlook the issue of housing affordability. The rising costs associated with home ownership and rentals have put an immense pressure on families. We must pursue policies focused on developing affordable housing, ensuring that every Canadian has a place to call home without facing financial strain. Thank you.
It's your turn, Terry.
Well, thank you first of all for everybody being here tonight. My name is Terry Beach. I'm your Liberal candidate in this election. I've been the MP for Burnaby North Seymour for the last 9.5 years. I want to acknowledge that we're having this debate tonight on the traditional territory of the Tsleil-Waututh, Musqueam, and Squamish people. This is my 5th election, and I think it is safe to say that this is the most consequential election that I've ever participated in. The only comment I'll make off the start about the absence of one of our colleagues is that in this profession, decisions are made by the people that show up. And this is an election where we need people to show up. The United States, if it's going to step back from being that shining light on the hill, then Canada needs to step up. We need to utilize the quality of our people, our resources, our talent, our strong and stable democracy, and we need to lead, we need to build. If you trust me with your vote for the 4th time, I will use my experience as an entrepreneur, as a small business owner, as your member of parliament, as a parliamentary secretary across multiple ministries, and as a minister who showed that you can lower costs and size of government while providing better services. That's why we're here tonight. That's why I'm here tonight, to try and convince you that I deserve your vote. I never take any election for granted. We've been door knocking year round. We don't just talk during elections. We do it all year round to make sure that your voices are going to Ottawa. And I hope that I have the opportunity at this consequential time to be able to continue to do that. Thank you.
Michael.
Bonjour, merci. Je m'appelle Michel René-Charrois. Je suis le candidat pour le Parti Nouveau démocratique en Burnaby North Seymour. Mes priorités sont le logement, le soins de santé et l'économie culturelle. Pour plus d'informations, visitez mon site web en www.michaelcharrois.ca.
English now, please.
Hello, everybody. My name is Michael Charrois. It's a pleasure to be here. I think my fourth one of these all candidate meetings. These are always a hoot. And I want to thank the people who put it together. It's always a monumental endeavor. And just like as Terry mentioned, I really want to mention that we are on the unceded territories of the Squamish and Tsleil-Waututh. I'm really happy that they allow us to be here to work and play and work. This is, as Terry said, a very consequential election. There's a lot going on since Trudeau left, since cut the tax, the tax thing happened. They got nothing back. The Conservatives got nothing. They got no Justin Trudeau. They got no cut the tax. They have a 37. It's looking like at this moment that it's going to be another minority government, which is great for the New Democrats because it's really important to have strong New Democrats in the House of Commons to hold them accountable. Because we know that if the Liberals get a majority, they talk a great talk. They use all of our talking points because, of course, we got great ideas. But then, when it comes time to actually govern, they govern like the Tories. Because, as we know, liberal Tories, same old story. I have only 2 minutes, so I do want to mention that tomorrow is Canada Film Day here in Canada. It's Canada Film Week. One of the ways that you can stand up for Canada is to sit down and watch a Canadian film. Turn off the Netflix, turn off the Disney Plus.
I think that's enough, Michael. Give him the hook. Okay. Thanks to the candidates for those. So we're now going to move to the questions from the organizing committees. And this is just to give us time to collect questions from you guys. Our first question to all the candidates is from Blueridge. And it reads like this. As we know, traffic congestion is negatively impacting residents and businesses on the North Shore. More housing and development is planned in the 3 OCPs, official community plans. If elected, what will you and your party do to provide federal funding in 3 following areas? And I may have to repeat these again, but commitment for long-term funding for TransLink to improve service, timing and plan for the replacement of the Ironworkers Memorial Bridge, funding for rapid transit and rapid buses to the North Shore. So you're up first, Jesse.
I plan to advocate for funding for the federal funding for the construction of a potential new bridge. There's going to be a lot of hurdles to overcome. We're going to need a community vote in order to, we got the Dollarton Highway, and I believe that with support, we should have that connected to Barnett Highway, as well as we would advocate for federal funding for transport, such as transit. We would possibly connect, more SkyTrain links into the North Shore, if possible. A lot of stuff to look into on that big project, but as it stands right now, Dollarton Highway just ends. It needs to continue, but that's just a projection. Thank you.
Well, we're getting it.
Okay. Oh, we got sound. Okay, so is that fine? Holding it there? I'm not disturbing it? Excellent. People can hear me in the back. With regards, okay, so I'm going to try to answer all 3 questions. But I will say that I filled out my North Shore News survey. We've all got little profiles going, and one of the questions that they asked was if there was one thing that you could do, was kind of if you could wave a magic wand and you could contribute to something, what would it be? And my answer was to solve the congestion problems on the North Shore. As one of the only political representatives to actually represent constituents on either side of the Second Narrows Bridge, I understand how painful this is, how frustrating this is, how people have to plan their lives around this, and a lot of times you just have to pad your schedule to know that there's going to be certain times of the day that congestion is overwhelming. So what have we done to help with that? Well, first of all, you talked about long-term funding for transit. It's been the biggest ask of local, regional politicians. In March of this year, we committed to $1.5 billion a year, every year, in long-term funding so that regional representatives can ensure that they can make long-term planning and commitments. It's not what can you get this election, what can you get next election. It's actually seeing through the entire plan in a way that is most effective for our communities. There's a group called North Shore Connects, which is municipal politicians, provincial politicians, and federal politicians. And we worked for a very long time trying to get to a consensus on what I thought was a pretty reasonably obvious solution in terms of public transit, which was the Purple Line, which would connect Park Royal through Capilano across the Second Narrows to Metrotown. We're going to start with bus rapid transit. That is in the works. But I've always insisted that that needs to be upgradable to rail in the medium term. And that is my time.
Thanks, Terry. There we go, everybody. So I think we can all agree that traffic sucks here on the North Shore. It's really, and this electoral district spans both sides of the Burnaby Inlet. And we have to go through another city in order to go from one part of the district to the other. So it makes it very challenging. What we are proposing is fare free transit, where people will follow their pocketbook. Now, this is not policy, this is my personal opinion, but I think we should make transit free. And we should start charging drivers a penny per kilometer for using the roads. Because right now, roads are free for cars and transit isn't. And, you know, there's the gas tax, there are other taxes, you're quite correct. But I think there should be a penny a kilometer and you just do that off the odometer. And that's not our policy, it's just my wacky. The NDP is going to modernize and expand public transit in communities across Canada with the goal of electrifying transit by 2030 to cut emissions. We'll make funding for public transit permanent through the Canada Public Transit Fund, available right away to support municipalities to move forward in their transit projects. We will include operational funding and cost-sharing agreements with provinces and cities that will take the cost burden off transit riders and taxpayers and help ensure service is convenient, frequent, and reliable. And the NDP will be an active partner in scaling up bus and train service between communities, something rural communities and commuters both need, especially since the Greyhound is no longer working. We also support the Burnaby Inlet Rapid Transit. And that's my time.
Thank you. Our next question comes from the Seymour Community Association. North Shore residents are being asked to shoulder the majority of the massive cost overruns on the new North Shore wastewater treatment plant. Given that everything about this project was beyond the purview of the people who live here, what would your party do to help alleviate the cost of this project to area residents should you form government? Starting with Jesse again.
Mic check 1, 2. For a comprehensive approach to address the cost overruns and issues surrounding the North Shore wastewater treatment plant project. But I would not support a federal bailout without significant accountability measures. the staggering increase in cost from an initial estimate of $700 million to nearly $4 billion signals a failure in project management and oversight. Instead of simply providing a bailout, I would encourage a thorough public inquiry to investigate the reasons behind the delays and cost overruns, ensuring transparency for North Shore residents. We need to hold Metro Vancouver accountable for its project management practices and ensure that lessons are learned to prevent similar issues in the near future, or in the future at all. Furthermore, I would support the call for an independent audit to thoroughly assess the situation while ensuring that it is genuinely independent rather than overseen by Metro Vancouver. We must prioritize the financial well-being of North Shore residents who are facing disproportionate costs through increased utility bills. By focusing on accountability and effective management, we can work toward a solution that addresses the needs of our community while ensuring that taxpayers' dollars are used responsibly. Thank you.
So, in 2016, when the federal government first stepped up for this project, it was the single largest infrastructure project in that budget. I think that we can agree generally that it's patently unfair that a community of 300,000 individuals is forced to pay, upwards of $700 a year for 30 years for a mismanaged project that is managed by the regional government. In terms of a federal bailout, I want to be very clear about this. It would be a mistake, and it actually would be, any candidate that would promise a federal bailout would be completely disingenuous. Because the federal government, of course, if the federal government is managing a project and there's an overrun, the federal government is responsible. If a provincial government is doing so, the provincial government is responsible. Same with the municipal project. We would not want, in this instance, it sounds good on the surface, but we would not want to be held accountable for cost overruns for a bridge in Ontario or a electric dam in Quebec. And in order to ensure that those incentives, when we negotiate contracts and have project management, are done in the most productive way possible, we need to figure out ways to there's just no possible way that that's going to happen, because it would set such a precedent that would put a lot of good management systems at risk. However, when we do continue to work with the regional governments, I know that every North Shore mayor and council is advocating to have those costs distributed more fairly across the region. I think we should support them in that. Also, when the regional government came to us asking for what we should invest in next, they actually spoke about the next wastewater project, which was Iona, and we included a $250 million federal transfer for that project. So we can help Metro Vancouver by putting more federal funds over projects that are prioritized. But a simple and easy solution on the surface, it would be detrimental to future projects and the way that we procure big, massive infrastructure projects in the future if we're to go down that road.
Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, I work in MLA Susie Chant's office as a frontline worker in her office. Thursdays and Fridays, I teach drama classes at the Chadwell Center and the Evergreen Cultural Center. But in my the hat that I wear on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, we often say, "Oh, TGIF, thank God it's federal." And with this one, it is Metro Vancouver that is responsible for it. And the province is, Metro Vancouver is already doing an audit. Many people believe that nothing's going to come of that. They're just going to cover their tracks, etc. At which point, the province will be taking over and doing another audit or a public inquiry. I also believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, there are still lawsuits out there with Ancona, the original people who are waiting to find out responsibility for that. So the bill may not be as high as it is because they may have to pay for what they did once the lawsuits all shake out. And we know that Metro Vancouver, that level of government, has been shamed into being more responsible with the money that they're using. They're no longer going on junkets. They're no longer sending people off to Europe and I visited the PNE and their exhibit that they had at the Pacific National Exhibition. And yeah, it was pretty exorbitant. So I'm glad that Metro Vancouver is pulling in the reins because they have to do that. And I also know that there's
to be continued. Okay, that's round one.
Here come the questions from the audience now, and I'm going to start with Jesse again. What specifically is your party's platform to balance the federal deficit, which is now 62 billion? Hard to say.
Mike, check 1, 2. So, to balance the federal budget, we would need to remove ourselves from foreign agendas, such as the Paris Climate Accord. One example is the money that's going into other corporate entities that are not benefiting Canadians at all. We want to have policy made in Ottawa, not Davos. And by exiting the Paris Climate Accord, we could build our infrastructure, balance our budget. Not only would we exit the climate accord and have policy made in Canada, we would also be no longer funding foreign war. Too many people have died. We are funding both sides of conflicts in some countries. And Canada does not fund war. We are a peaceful nation. We promote peace. We send peacekeepers. We don't go to the meat grinder. These are my own words. I'm not coming up with this off of what I wrote. I am a Canadian, and I'm proud of it because it was how I was raised. We embrace other cultures. We accept other cultures into our heritage. And together we build Canada and make Canada strong, not by funding war. In fact, you all know what war is, so I don't need to go any further. It breaks my heart.
Before you start, Terry, I'm going to put Terry on the spot. If you were Prime Minister in a new Liberal government, what would you do to start working on that $62 billion?
This is a fantastic question, and I have a little bit of a background in this because I served as Parliamentary Secretary for Finance for 2 years, at which time it was an absolute priority to get inflation down and to get interest rates down. A little bit about the $62 billion number. One of the reasons that inflated so quickly recently was because we started accruing the actual costs and counting for the costs of reconciliation of climate change, which of course are things that we had kicked down the road, which we pay for every single year, but didn't necessarily account for directly in the federal budget. In terms of getting that down, our focus has always been to lower the debt to GDP ratio, which is what we did every single year up until the pandemic. Now, obviously, everybody knows what happened during the pandemic, but 18 months afterwards, we began again reducing the debt to GDP ratio. And one of the best ways that we can go about doing that is building more projects in our country. And I had a great conversation with a Conservative supporter who won't vote for me tonight outside, who talked about Stephen Harper's approval process for getting mines and big projects built. And I reminded him that there are still projects that are still under that system that still haven't been approved because they overwhelmed environmental rights, because they didn't take into account Indigenous rights or the Constitution. We were able to provide a system that can still be more efficient, but was able to provide a specific timeline to get projects approved without overwhelming those rights and without having these projects end up in the courts to be challenged and eventually overturned. Mr. Mark Carney has promised to reduce that to 2 years. The other thing that I think is a really good idea, in my 20 months as Minister of Citizen Services, I was able to prove that you can, through digitalization and other measures and focused energy, reduce costs and provide better services. And passports is an excellent example of that. During the passport crisis, we produced 1.3 million passports. Today, this year, we'll produce 5.4 million passports. It's over a 300% increase. Cost of providing a passport book before the pandemic was $80 a book. During the pandemic, it was $200. By 2027, it'll be $27.
Getting back to what I know, cuts are coming. Whether it's conservatives who have said that they're going to definitely cut things, and the liberals who are moving into progressive conservative territory, taking up the space that the conservatives have left off, they're going to make $42 billion worth of cuts. And we know the first thing that gets cut are the arts. We know, oh, pity us poor artists, because we always get cut in austerity budgets. I'll tell you, this government, our government does not have a spending problem. Our government has an income problem, because they let corporations and they let billionaires get away with not paying their proper share. It's about time that they close the loopholes of Panama Papers. Remember the Panama Papers? The only thing that happened from that is that the person who investigated it and reported it, they got killed. So it's about time that the government closed those loopholes and made corporations and especially billionaires pay their proper share. I mean, how big a pile of coins does that dragon need to sleep on at night?
Terry is using one of his wild cards to rebut Mr. Sharwa's comments.
Well, not really. I just really like talking about the economy. So I just want to finish up my thought, which was we went into the crisis with the lowest debt to GDP ratio, the lowest deficit, the lowest deficit to GDP and the lowest net debt to GDP ratio in the G7. We improved on those after the pandemic. Don't let anybody tell you that Canada is not in good fiscal shape. We are the envy of the G7 with our fiscal environment. And we did that while delivering dental care, farmer care, and child care. So we have the resources that we need to be able to build up this country and...
Excuse me, please don't. I think he was trying to claim that the NDP was responsible for that. I think that was his point. Well, okay.
Well, I don't
think there was anything intended by it, so.
I'll take it in the good humor. I'm sure it was intended. I'm done with my point anyway, so consider Michael rebutted.
Okay, thank you. Changing gears a little. 3.1 million Canadians are waiting for life-saving surgery, and 74,677 people died while waiting for surgery between 2018 and 2019. While Canada Health Transfers aim to support provincial healthcare systems, its current structure and funding models lead to challenges which cost lives. What is your proposal to end this healthcare crisis? And we'll start with Jesse again.
Hello, everybody. Once again, I'm not even going to go on my documents that I have prepared. I'm no longer a tow truck operator, but I do service hospitals, and I'm in every single one of them. You got beds in the hallways with patients on them. People are dying when they're waiting for something as simple as an MRI or radiation therapy. I propose because Burnaby North Seymour doesn't even have a hospital in our riding. But I would advocate as well for federal funding, because if we no longer fund war, because how can we fund war if we can't even take care of our own health care? $20 billion went to a foreign war. What would that $20 billion, how many hospitals do you think that could build? Quite a few. So building a hospital in the Burnaby North Seymour riding would alleviate the wait times at Lionsgate Hospital and Burnaby, Hospital. So my proposal, once again, is to invest in our healthcare system, building a hospital in this riding, have another EMS, transport station in this riding to fulfill the, requirements of this hospital. This is what I propose, is no longer funding foreign war, no longer funding foreign agendas, and putting that back into Canadian infrastructure. Thank you.
We might be able to get to Ukraine later, but I do support what we're doing in Ukraine, and I think it's necessary and I think it's important. With regards to healthcare and the specific question, when we signed the first health accord, we ensured that the two things were in there. One was specific tags towards mental health, and the other one was specific to home care, because we felt that mental health was being neglected, and we felt that home care was necessary to address because of the changing demographics in the country. We have a quickly increasing seniors demographic pyramid, and is growing at a rate that we fail to fully understand. And so the pressures in the system are going to get worse if we don't invest in it. In the latest health deal, we invested $200 billion, but there was a catch. Because the oldest game in federal provincial politics was to say, well, why can't you have a family doctor? And why do you have to wait for surgical wait times? And have every premier just kind of shrug their shoulders and say, we're not getting enough money from the federal government. And then we would send historic transfers to those provinces, and then they would cut taxes, they would spend it on a whole bunch of things that didn't go directly to healthcare. So this time it was different. This time we said, we're going to transfer the funds, and you can spend it, you can set up these bilateral deals to invest it where you need it, where it will be most effective for your province. But you have to start reporting on outcomes. And so all the provinces and all the territories that signed onto that deal, and they all did, will now have to report how they're spending the health money on healthcare in their province. And if we find that healthcare is dipping in Prince Edward Island or in British Columbia or Quebec, everybody are now going to have standards to compare it to, and there will be political consequences for not investing in our healthcare system, and I think that will drive outcomes.
The New Democrats reinvented Canada's healthcare system. It's a nation-defining system that separates us between us and the Americans. And it's a caring and sharing thing that's really important, and we feel very strongly about it. And that we're the only party that can be trusted to maintain and improve our healthcare system. You see, I didn't get this scar from fighting a Mexican cartel. I got that scar from cancer surgery that I just had recently. In October, I got robotic surgery and a tonsil pulled out. And then in November, I got a round of chemo that ended December 31st. And I gotta say, the care and attention that I got from our healthcare system was absolutely wonderful. I know it's not perfect. If you got a bad knee, or you got, like my dad's got a hernia, and he's old, they're not about to deal with his hernia. It's not life-threatening, right? I get it. But if you have a life-threatening situation with your heart or with cancer, they're there. And I want to make sure that each and every one of us has that same care and attention, because we all know that we're going to end up in the hospital at one point or another. So the New Democrats will keep delivering for you. We were there this time around to hold the Liberals to account, to make sure that they do what they say they're going to do. Dental care has been in their red book since the turn of the century, since the Chrétien era. But it's only because New Democrats are there with the balance of power to make them do what they say they're going to do. So we're going to improve working conditions for healthcare professionals. We're going to improve patient outcomes and reduce burnout among doctors. We're going to strengthen Canada's Healthcare Act to stop the expansion of for-profit healthcare, much like Life Labs. You know, the delivery of healthcare is not for sale in negotiations with America.
Thank you. This question concerns co-op housing. Co-op housing is one of the only affordable options for middle-income people, seniors, or young couples. Will your party support funding for more co-ops as the federal government did in the 1970s? And we're going to start again with Jesse.
Oh.
Really? Okay, next time.
Affordable housing. I think it'd be nice to live in a home. I've been living in a motorhome since 2019. So the People's Party of Canada most definitely feels that affordable housing is necessary. They believe in me as a, regular blue-collar worker at the moment. They know I live in a motorhome. Like I said, I've made sacrifices so I can pay my child support. Having to empty my water, fill my water at a motorhome park. Having to fill propane in the winter time and change my tanks. So I do live that struggle. Yes, we got tents out there. Thousands of Canadians who don't have a home. So the People's Party of Canada puts affordable housing, co-op housing, on the top priority for Canadians. And we will address this situation together as I am standing up in front of you, even though I'm sitting down. But regardless, I don't even have a home. Thank you.
So two things. One, just getting back to the dental care comment. I was the minister responsible for launching the enrollment process for dental care. And just so everybody knows, the biggest contingent, 4.1 million Canadians, the age 18 to 64, will become eligible next month. And we will do that, I promise, with or without the NDP. With regards to housing, he said maybe. So we launched the National Housing Strategy in 2017 after the federal government had not been in the housing game for 30 years. And that was 30 years of making a mistake that accumulated for more than a generation. And when we started, it was an $8 billion plan, and of course it had to increase because the size of the problem was so large. Now, if you're an elected representative, you can't be a municipal politician, provincial politician, or federal politician, or a dog catcher and get elected without a housing plan. So we've definitely moved the needle. But we hit a snag because those units were coming into line right when we were going into the pandemic. So we had some building frustration, but then we also had we had the interest rate rise. So projects where we were getting 140 units for a $3 or $4 million federal contribution, all of a sudden you had an $8 or $9 million funding gap. Despite that, we were still able to deliver 3,400 units in Burnaby, North Seymour through the National Housing Strategy since it started. Those are real units that would not exist today. You can go right to my office and look next door. There's a building that's being built right now. It was a quarter owned by the federal government. It was partly owned by the provincial government, and the municipal government just sat there as bare land. So we arranged to sell it to the city for $1. It's now building 164 deeply affordable units, and it's providing 74 childcare spaces. Mark Carney has produced a plan for an industrial housing policy. It builds on top of the National Housing Strategy. Its goal is to double the pace of construction and start building housing factories. So we don't have a construction season. We can build housing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and make housing more affordable so that individuals can have a home where they can raise their family.
Mark Carney and his Brookfield, he made $1 billion for billionaires by buying up apartment buildings, hiking rents, and then charging bogus fees, evicting tenants. I don't know if we can necessarily trust Mark Carney to build proper homes for people. The Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation has got to get back in the business of creating housing like they did back in the 70s. They reneged on that. I believe it was during the term of Turner or one of those guys. Even before Shawinigan handshake guy, even before his time. And they got to get back into it. We have to spend more money building nonprofit social housing, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to build more homes that people can afford faster. We're going to support first-time home buyers to reach their dream of owning a house by giving long-term mortgages at low interest rates. We're going to stop rent evictions and lower people's rent. We're going to cap rent. Rent control is something that we would do. And we want to create a housing market for people, not for corporations, not for flipping. And it's very important. We certainly look at cooperative housing because, I mean, that's part of what New Democrats are all about, is cooperation over competition. And so we definitely would be supportive of cooperative housing.
Thank you. This one is directed toward Terry Beach. And Liberal government, when no heads rolled for the first thing arrive can fiasco, SNC Lavalin, undue influence toward Attorney General, and all of Trudeau's ethics violations.
We lived in a very toxic situation for the last 3 years, basically ever since Pierre Poilievre has taken over the leadership of the Conservative Party. And that is, sorry, it's just true. I mean, I'm happy to give examples if you don't believe it. I mean, this is an individual who was my finance critic when I was the finance parliamentary secretary. And unlike the tradition that is, you know, what we've done for budgets since we started planning budgets, in this country, Pierre Poilievre never studied a budget. He only launched ethics scandal investigations. So apologies if that comes across as cynical, but we are literally sitting here having a debate where the Conservative representative hasn't even shown up. This is systematic of the leadership of this current leader of the Conservative Party of Canada. I really desperately hope that the Conservative Party is able, after this interesting experiment to the far right, is able to move back more towards the center and do very well for the health of Canadian democracy. I really, really believe that is necessary. But let's talk about some of the things that we're not talking about because the Conservatives aren't here, right? Pierre Poilievre is going to shut down the CBC. You want accountability? How are you going to have accountability if you have to get your news from Fox News? You want to make sure that politicians are held to account? Why would you kick your media off your plane and not take questions and not do media interviews? Right? It's the double standard of the hypocrisy when central headquarters tell you, as a candidate who promised me, yes, going to represent your interests, the person that was hissing over there, how is he going to represent your interests? He can't even stand up to his own and fight for your rights to represent your opinions in this forum.
Now I'd like to mention the most egregious broken promise. The very first one that the Liberals broke in 2015 was that this would be the last election we had to fight under first past the post. My God. Like, just because they couldn't get a ranked ballot, which would put them as everybody's number 2. They didn't want to go with everybody's choice of mixed member proportional representation. They decided to break their promise, and here we are. Everybody here has to make that horrible choice of deciding to, if they want to put their vote, if they are not able to vote their values, and they have to set their values aside and maybe vote for the Liberals because they don't want the Conservatives to get in. It's a horrible choice, and the Liberals, it is, in my opinion, one of the most egregious broken promises. Forget all the other ones. This first past the post business.
I think the question was answered. You might not like the answer, but it was answered. Thank you. I'm going to start this one down at the end with Michael, because he said he wanted to go first once in a while. So here we go.
Switch it up. I want to switch it up.
Seniors are working and living longer than before. Does your party intend to remove the requirement to start withdrawing retirement savings at the age of 71?
No, we have no desire to make people work longer, work till 67 like the Conservatives wanted people to before they could get their retirement savings, before they could get their Canada pension plan. We have no desire to do that. We want seniors to, live a long life, and we want to reduce their isolation. We want to make sure that we would increase the guaranteed income supplement to lift seniors out of poverty. We want to take the profit out of long-term care. If you remember what happened during the COVID situation, is the people in the long-term care, they were left to just sit there in their, uncared for while people ran away from the effects of COVID. We want to end pension theft. Oh my gosh, we want to put workers in the front of the line when corporations decide to go, like what happened with Hudson's Bay. They rewarded their senior executive with $1 million bonuses, and then cut out all of the workers, and they didn't get any of their pension money. Well, we want to make sure that people's pension money is protected over bonuses that the executives get.
So we do have a campaign promise to allow you to reduce the amount that you have to pull out of your RRIF. It's a temporary measure. We also have a promise to increase the GIS so that those individuals, those seniors during this difficult time, have extra resources. I believe I have it written down here somewhere. I think it's $625 a year or $650 a year. It's something close to that. We are also the party that increased OAS by 10% for individuals over the age of 75. We also made sure that pension payments are fixed to inflation, so they continue to go up every year. The reason why the Conservative Party had to make an announcement that they are going to not raise the retirement age from 65 was because in the previous iteration of the Conservative government, they never campaigned on what they were actually going to do, right? They just did it and hoped that they would get forgiveness later. That's why that was a campaign announcement during this campaign. With regards to other initiatives for seniors, I mean, there are over 9,000 seniors in this riding that have already benefited and seen a dentist through the dental care plan. We've just recently signed the pharmacare plan with the province of British Columbia. I think there's 3 provinces that are signed up now and more to come. But it is crucially important, and I don't think anybody would ever disagree with this, that seniors who have done everything right, worked so hard, deserve to have dignity in their retirement, and we need to make sure that we facilitate that. And that means the investments in healthcare that we've already talked about. It means the deal that we conducted with the premiers to increase pension benefits up to 50% over time. It means cracking some of the really hard problems, including upgrading our benefit delivery systems, which was something that I was responsible for as Minister of Citizen Services, which will actually allow better services and to ensure that individuals aren't as susceptible to things like pension theft and the like.
Our seniors have built this country and deserve our utmost respect and support. It is essential that we provide them with a higher fixed income. It's important that we lower inflation. There should be no negotiation in this matter. Enhancing financial support for our elderly is not just a matter of policy, it's a matter of dignity. We have laid the groundwork for our society, and it is our duty to ensure that they can live comfortably and with respect. At the same time, we must focus on addressing poverty in our communities. We propose a shift in how we provide assistance to welfare recipients rather than perpetuating a system that may keep individuals reliant on social programming. We advocate for a more empowering approach by providing a fixed amount of assistance along with a clearly defined time frame to secure employment. Now, that's not necessarily for our seniors, but that's for people who are in, low-income situations. Additionally, we should invest in job training for people who are on assistance, and that'll pave the way for meaningful opportunity. So the goal is to lower inflation, to lower the cost of spending for cost of living for our seniors and people who are low income. Thank you.
You're first again, Michael. Please comment on your party's policy to mitigate climate change.
Well, for one thing, we want to make the big polluters pay. I think it's rather sad that we no longer have the climate solutions, the carbon tax, because now we no longer have the ability to bring in money and support solutions that are green, and poor people no longer get their rebates anymore. So it's kind of sad that they cut that. It was a good program, but so part of what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that that the big polluters pay. The oil and gas companies don't get away with just not paying their portion. We're going to make sure that we put reforestation in place, and our water will not be for sale when it comes to renegotiation with the Americans. Our water's not for sale. Our health care's not for sale. And we got to make sure that we stand up for Canada, elbows up in that respect.
So in the previous election, I was the Green PAC endorsee as somebody that worked on serious climate policy. We should all be very proud of Canada's climate plan. This year, in fact, for the first time, emissions are going down while the economy is increasing. It is very possible for us to fight climate change, even though that I know that there are a lot of people that are feeling that that's being taken aback right now. I spent 9.5 years talking about a revenue-neutral price and pollution, which is a Nobel winning prize, very efficient system to align incentives for long-term investments to fight climate change. Now, what was implemented in 2008 in British Columbia, the first jurisdiction to do it in the world, was a true revenue-neutral system, which means the money that you collected, you would give back. The federal program was designed that way as well. 80% of individuals, the poorest individuals, actually got more money back than they put into the system. But that's not what was implemented in British Columbia. And when the NDP provincial government broke the revenue neutrality principle and started taking that money and putting it into general revenue, then you lost the social license to be able to continue to have that program. Being given that money back and making sure that life was affordable was a key part of that program. Now, I wish that we could go forward and I could say that we could solve our price and pollution, but the whole point of why that system works is we need to have a consensus for all of us to agree so that we all make future decisions with an increasing price going in the future, including businesses who might be buying large-scale furnaces and them making more efficient energy choices 20 years in advance because they know what the cost of pollution will be. But you can't have a system that is going to be challenged by politicians in every provincial and territorial election, 13 elections every 4 years. So we're going to have to lean into the other side parts of the climate plan, and we're going to have to dig harder, because failing on this, we have no choice. The planet is at stake, and the most important thing that we do in this job is defend the future for our grandchildren, and we cannot abandon this. We have to do this and grow the economy at the same time.
Thank you.
I think we should plant trees, more trees. Now, while the PPC acknowledges the importance of environmental stewardship, we oppose carbon taxes and support practical solutions that promote innovation without harming the economy. We favor market-driven approaches to environmental issues and have policy made in Ottawa, not Davos. Now, we got our politicians, thank you. We have our politicians right now, the Conservatives got his own big 747, passenger jet, when, our leader of the People's Party flies commercially with everybody else. Now, if everybody flies to Davos, is that good for the environment? No. Is funding war good for the environment? No. Having policy in Ottawa, here in Canada, would be the best thing for addressing climate change locally. Thank you.
Michael again. Now here's a real barn burner. This comes from somebody watching this meeting on YouTube. Do you support spending $74 billion on fighter jets instead of investing that money into the economy?
I believe that we have the first batch of F-35s coming in, and we, unlike the Americans, will not break our contracts. We agree that if we shake hands and make a deal, that we should keep that deal. So the first batch of F-35s are coming in. I believe, and I believe very strongly, that we should be looking at an alternative source, Europe in particular, for any other procurement of flying machines, because we know that Trump is going to find a way to put a back door into it and turn them off if we ever have to use them against Americans. But by the same token, I think it's really important that we don't sell offensive, and I mean that in both senses of the word, offensive weapons that are being used against people like the people of Gaza, and Saudi Arabia particularly. I don't think we should be sending them weapons either, because they're a terrible regime. Especially since nobody's held the Prince of Saudi Arabia accountable for killing Khashoggi, the Washington Post reporter. They're a terrible regime, and Canadians should not be selling weapons to offensive regimes. Thank you.
So obviously, sovereignty has been a big topic, a very important topic for us to address, certainly recently. Oh, Mike just came. Mike was here 10 years ago. Hey, Mike.
The mayor just arrived.
Thank you for attending, Your Worship. Listen, so when Mike and I were on this stage in 2015, the Conservative government had actually dropped defense spending in Canada to less than 1%. We've since doubled it. And right now we're about 1.35% or 1.4%. That's because the economy has grown at the same time. By the time we get to our NATO commitment, 2%, by 2030, we will have tripled military spending. What we invested in, specifically with the F-35s, Mark Carney has said that will be subject to a review because of our changing dynamic relationship with the United States. I think that's the responsible thing to say. But he's also stated that we are going to establish a research agency within the military so that we can look into and invest in safety and defense capabilities, but also can help us grow our economy, create jobs at the same time. The North Strong and Free policy, which looks at both our reinvestments in NORAD, but also takes very seriously the new environment of the Arctic and the importance of Canada's ability to defend that for our sovereignty and the opportunities that are there for us as a nation. That is also very important. So I have a long sheet, can't get through it all in 2 minutes, but this is a very important issue. We need to be very strategic with this. And it's going to be another one of those areas when Canada decides to step up, no matter what our relationship in the future is with the United States, that we have a very strategic policy on this front. And I think that the Liberal plan is the most serious and efficient one.
I agree, and so does the People's Party of Canada, that we must invest in our military, but not for the offensive. The best offense is a good defense. So we do have, threats from other countries, let's say, but building Canada is the most important thing we can do right now. Our military isn't the best military at the moment. We need these fighter jets, I think, for our national sovereignty. Now, enhancing national security and investing in defense is strengthening border security. All of that's essential to safeguard Canadians from the external threats. Increased military support and collaboration with allies will also ensure our interests are secured. Thank you.
Michael, since 2015, the size of the federal civil service has increased by more than 40%, and the federal government's spending on outside consultants has increased by more than 100%. If your party was to form government, what would you do about this situation?
You have to remember that civil servants include nurses. Civil servants include doctors. So those numbers are, and really that is provincial jurisdiction. And I think we don't want to have as many contractors as we have. We want, of course, the New Democrats would prefer if people actually work for the government as opposed to be contractors. Private P3s, private-public partnerships, are just, in my humble opinion, are just a ripoff, because you have to add a 10%, 15% profit margin into the whole project. So private-public partnerships are not a good use of money. They should be more in-house as opposed to contracted out. And like I say, like this, we don't have a we don't have a spending problem in this country. We have an income problem because we don't tax the billionaires who are controlling the cost of things like food. I mean, you can go to Persia Food up on Lonsdale, and you can buy a potato for 50 cents. And you go to Superstore or Save on Foods, and the potato costs like $1.50. And you go, how can that be? It's not just because they're more efficient at getting the produce out. It's because they're gouging us. And we gotta make sure that those gougers are paying their proper taxes. Thank you.
This is a topic that I'm very passionate about. When I had the opportunity to establish the Ministry of Citizen Services, I really had an opportunity to really get into the details of the technical capacity of the public service. And, you know, it's hard to imagine what the average person visualizes the operations of the public service are. But once you get into the details, you can see very quickly how inefficient having to build systems off of old technology is. So I mentioned previously that I was responsible for launching the Benefits Delivery Modernization Program. That's replacing servers that literally people had coded on COBOL in the 50s and 60s. We have, you know, our OAS system up until the end of this month was almost old enough to get OAS. And now it is in a new cloud server. I talked about the passports earlier and about the way that we were able to deliver way more quantity with a way better quality of service and at a cheaper price. Well, that is one of 172 digital examples that we are doing just on the service side. By 2030, Canada's internet will be ubiquitous, which means you can live in a rural community, you can live in the Arctic, and you can access almost all of Canada's public services. So people are going to talk about AI, they're going to talk about machine learning, and we're doing that. There's, for example, in records of employment, that used to be 15 people's jobs. We were able to teach machine learning algorithm to do that and take it down to one who does QA on it instead. So there are a lot of ways that we can be efficient, but it is going to take some investment. You have to upgrade the technical capacity of the public service so that they can build these systems. That's how you get out of the big management contracts, because if you don't have the technical capability, is the problem $1 million problem? Is it $100 million problem? And you only know that if you have the technical skills in-house. So it is a target-rich environment, and I think that we can have a lot of efficiency. We spend a lot of time building out new social programs. I think we need to turn inwards and make those programs super efficient so we can afford them for the long term.
First of all, I want to give kudos to Terry for dealing with the passports. Yeah, that was really great. However, having said that, like I had to deal with the phone, trying to get a hold of somebody in regards to EI for this neck problem that I had. And it was just going around and around and around in circles. Press 4 for this, press 3 for that. I just want to talk to a human being about this thing. And those systems seem to be designed to keep me away from just talking to somebody. Like, they're really efficient at shielding the public servants from actually having to deal with us. That's it.
All right, this is a yes or no question. Oh, more? Okay.
By eliminating unnecessary regulations and reducing bureaucratic red tape in the, you know, all sectors of government, we would be able to lower construction costs and facilitate, you know, rapid development. We will advocate for collaboration with provinces and municipalities because, you know, the public sector falls under the provincial and municipal levels. We will create localized solutions, tailoring strategies that reflect the community needs and the economic conditions. Thank you.
Yes or no, gentlemen? Starting with Jesse. Is there a chance that your party will introduce some measure of tax on capital gains on the sale of principal residences? Yes or no?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Tax on capital gains on the sale of principal residences. Any chance that your party would implement that?
That's part of like, the bureaucratic red tape kind of thing. Yeah, we would be lowering taxes. That's our goal with the People's Party of Canada, and that is capital gains. Like I said, whenever we don't fund foreign, programs.
I just needed a yes or no.
Yes.
Yes, you would?
Sorry, what was that? Yeah.
You would introduce a measure of tax on capital gains?
No.
Fine.
Sorry about that. I had to.
Yeah, next.
So not yes or no, no, we're not going to do it. Just a small point. In every leaders debate, the Conservatives say that we will. So if you hear that during the leaders debate, it's not true.
Not true. Okay.
No.
Thank you. This is going to start with, I think Jesse will start at that end again. CSIS is warning the government about election interference from the People's Republic of China. What do you think should be done to prevent this?
I would say stop doing polls on national television right now because I don't think that that's accurate. That's one step. The other one is cybersecurity. But these polls are done manually. You got people in rooms counting. So as long as Elections Canada and I have faith in the process, I don't think that there's going to be any foreign interference in this election.
So foreign interference is something we have to take very seriously. We had the Hogue Commission, and in fact, the Liberal leadership was the first leadership contest that was done within the constraints and the recommendations of what the Hogue Commission put forward. But if we're going to talk seriously about foreign interference, we have to ask the question, why is there one leader who wants to be Prime Minister who refuses to get his foreign interference? And that is Pierre Poilievre. It makes absolutely no sense that we should trust this guy and then he's going to get it after we make him Prime Minister. It is a criteria. It's one of the things you need to get. It took Mark Carney a couple of weeks after becoming leader to get his security clearance. It should be a necessity. With regards to what we've seen with misinformation, what's going on social media, this is another act of war. You have economic warfare, you have misinformation, you have foreign interference in our elections. It's something that has to be absolutely guarded against, and we need to think about, especially as we see, the Burnaby now is going to shut down on April 21st. It's not even lasting until the end of this election. And more people have been telling me that they're relying on my, every 30-day mailer in order to get the local news. And we're depending more and more on American media and what we see on our social media networks. So for one, keep the CBC, protect the CBC. We need a distinct cultural identity news source that we can trust. And stop attacking independent democratic institutions. Conservatives are promising to get rid of the CBC. The Conservative leader is promising to be the first Prime Minister in Canadian history to use the notwithstanding clause to override the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. He has also talked about firing the independent governor of the Bank of Canada. The Nobel Prize in Economics this year was won for proving that wealthy nations are wealthy because they have strong, independent democratic institutions. You want to make sure that that continues, don't elect somebody who's looking to tear them down.
Finally, I get one for a direct. All Canadians deserve to feel safe in their communities. The NDP will defend Canada from foreign interference. All Canadians deserve to feel safe. Everyone deserves to live free of discrimination and fear. Some Canadians are being targeted and harassed by foreign governments. Misinformation and disinformation is a serious threat to democracy, and we know that some foreign governments are at the root of disinformation campaigns. China, India, Iran, Russia, Pakistan are the most active perpetrators of foreign interference. One example of foreign interference, busloads of students from China allegedly voted in a liberal nomination race. And hey, what about Polyev? Why doesn't he want to get briefings from CSIS or even get his national security clearance? So the New Democrats, we fought for an independent inquiry on foreign interference, and we will act on his recommendations to protect communities and stop disinformation campaigns. Jagmeet Singh, he's got top security clearance, and it is unconscionable that Pierre Poilievre refuses to apply to have the same thing. What has he got to hide? What's he hiding? Why doesn't he want to do it? We need to stop illegal activities by foreign governments. New Democrats will introduce new security measures, including a foreign influence transparency registry. Thank you.
We have time for maybe one more question before we go to the open mic, and I don't know which one to ask here. This one is about seniors' care. Will your party establish a policy to either include long-term care in the Canada Health Act as an insured health service or introduce standalone long-term care legislation with national standards? We'll start with Jesse. Is that a yes? Okay. He's done. Yes.
Okay, me next. So with regards to long-term care, we passed a bill about this specifically, and we saw how fragile long-term care is in Canada during the pandemic. We literally had to send in the military to some facilities, and I hope that we're never coming back to that ever again. I spoke previously about the first health accord when we insisted that specific investments in long-term care be included in it because we felt like it wasn't being invested enough alongside healthcare by the provinces. I also mentioned previously about the $200 billion investment that the federal government made in a historic transfer to provinces that are related directly to outcomes. We should make sure that seniors care and long-term care is a part of those outcomes. I'm not actually sure off the top of my head if that is one of them, but we should check on that. With regards to the specific part about enshrining it in the Canada Health Act, whoever wrote that question, can you come talk to me about that? I don't know the implications of that or where that stands, but I'd like to know more.
Perry, that question was actually submitted to me, and I just wrote it down. So I will tell that lady to contact you. Okay.
This is a healthcare issue. And like all healthcare issues, the New Democrats are really the only ones that can be trusted to make it better, to expand healthcare, and to make sure it's there when you need it. And it's time to take the profit motive out of long-term care. We would definitely bring long-term care under the umbrella of the Canadian Health Act. We will end for-profit delivery and bring long-term care homes under public umbrella. We will introduce a care guarantee for seniors, including mandatory national standards for care so that it's the same all across the country, and proper working conditions in long-term care homes to keep our loved ones safe and healthy. And that will include more staff with minimum hours of care for residents, so they have the time to listen and the time to take care of folks. Because that's what we believe in the New Democrats. We're for caring for each other. That's what sets us apart from a lot of other parties. Is that we come from a place of love, not hate.
Thank you. This is going to be the last question that's directed toward the candidates before we go to open mic, and I think this is something that concerns all of us, and it is with regard to catch and release. And I'm going to start with Terry. How will the increase in violent crime be dealt with? People are upset that violent offenders end up on the street within 24 hours of being charged with a violent crime. How do you deal with that?
So, first, I want to start at the beginning, which was Pierre Poilievre is accused the Liberal Party of being soft on crime. And that's because of Bill C-75, which actually made more intense restrictions and harsher restrictions for things like vehicle theft. But it specifically corrected some failed policies that were implemented and seemed to be, and ruled to be, unconstitutional. So that was stage one. Stephen Harper had implemented a number of policies that were architected by a man named Benjamin Herron, who is a UBC law professor. That law professor has now said recently, in fact, that those were failed policies, that they were not effective, and they were grossly unconstitutional. We then came forward with Bill C-48, which, specific to violent offenders, said that if you had committed a violent crime within the last 5 years, then you would have a reverse onus in that you would default to being detained until your trial unless there was some way that you could convince that that was not necessary. Those actually came in as harsher penalties and was supported by a majority of members in the House. I get these flyers from the Conservative Party saying that we're going to repeal the soft on crime bills. Well, if they're talking about Bill C-48, then they're grossly mistaken. And it is disingenuous to bring up a bunch of failed policies from the 90s and try to scare everybody into convincing them that they're going to work. It sounds good maybe to the base. Maybe it helps with fundraising. But we need to be smart on crime. Nordic nations are shutting down their prisons. They can't keep enough people in there to justify them. Which direction do we want to go?
Well, we definitely do not want to go for the for-profit prison motive like they have in the United States. That's a terrible, terrible way of dealing with it. I think that it's more of a perception of a rise in crime. Because, we're on a 24-hour cycle of news. If it bleeds, it leads. And I think that we have a perception that there's more crime. But, we see a lot of people that seem to be under duress, that, they're breaking windows and things and, creating property crimes. And I often wonder if those are folks that, that have the brain injury, the drug addiction, and the mental health situation going on. And, it's a provincial jurisdiction, I know, and the province is taking on, reopening the Mental Health Institute in Coquitlam.
No, they haven't.
No, they haven't yet?
No.
Well, I think they're making steps towards it. But anyways, that's provincial and it's not federal. Like I say, I think that it's important if it bleeds, it leads. I think it's a perception thing. However, gun violence is something that we take very seriously. And, especially an intimate partner gun violence. So you want to make sure that if your intimate partner has threatened you or used violence against you, that they don't have access to guns so that they can do it again.
Okay, why don't we do that? It's easy. And just before you start, Jesse, if you have a question for the candidates, can you please start lining up in the center aisle here? Thank you. So Jesse, just answer your question, and then we're going to go to members of the audience.
All right, the PPC is committed to enhancing public safety by increasing support for law enforcement and implementing tougher penalties for crime. We believe in violent crime. As that's the issue, damaging 40 bus shelters on Hastings Street kind of thing. We believe, the catch and release system has failed us. And we also believe in prioritizing community safety by investing in resources that protect residents and foster safe neighborhoods. Now, maintaining law and order is a key priority. And the PPC urges increased support and policies, that
adhere to and promote for the safety of our citizens. Thank you.
Okay, so just a little bit before we start, we only have one mic that's working, so we're going to sort of go back and forth here with this one, and your questions, please limit them to 30 seconds and make sure that there is a question. And if you're directing it toward one individual, please mention that.
Thank you. I
2 minutes.
Thank you, and I apologize for my outburst earlier. This butterfly necklace that I'm wearing, which is simple,
I don't want a bunch of preamble, so if you have a question, please ask it.
is a symbol of hope, restoration, recovery, and renewal in honor of the 50,000 families grieving the loss of a loved one from the drug crisis. Clearly, the safe supply model is unsafe. What we need is treatment facilities on a performance model with a proven track record of getting people off drugs with treatment, detox, counseling, group therapy, physical exercise, job placement, and transitional housing. What will the Liberals do, and the NDP do, for the 50,000 lost lives in Canada due to drugs and alcohol?
Thank you. I don't know if that's directed, is it directed toward there? Okay, thank you.
So I think this is a fantastic question, and thank you sincerely for answering it. We've invested over $1 billion in taking on the opioid crisis, and that's at multi-levels, everything from banning, machines that allow you to make pills, to having more enforcement of the ingredients and where they're coming from. Of course, there was the increased border plan that was part of our initial salvo with the United States, although that was more for us, really, because the United States is the largest gun and drug market in the world, and so we have a strong border, but it's always good to make it stronger. I would remind you that the last Conservative government cut 2/3 out of the drug treatment fund. We've done the opposite. We've provided supports to families. We've taken a health-based approach. And Mark Carney has promised to take a housing-first approach as well, which means getting people sheltered and then dealing with all the issues that they have. I can't promise a perfect solution because this is a scourge that's affecting people not just in Canada, across the United States and other countries. But, being a member of Parliament isn't just cutting ribbons. The worst things that happen in our communities, they come right through our front door. And all I can tell you is that for every family that has come through my front door, we have gotten them the resources that they need. We've treated them with dignity, and we've made sure that they've had a positive experience.
Yeah, it's a sad shame for every life lost. It's just a terrible shame. But we have to remember that drug addiction is not a crime, it's a health issue. And it needs to be treated as a health issue. And you can't do all of those things that you want, Elise, if the people are dead. You got to meet them where they're at. And places like Insight, they allow those people to get connected once they're ready. Because within the brain of every drug addict, there's a tiny little place where they wake up in the morning and they are sick and tired of being sick and tired. And that's the time when you got to jump onto it and make sure that they get the chance to get the help they need. Because if you don't jump on it immediately, then the craving gets too much, and they end up back on the streets. I personally don't understand opiates. Stimulants was my thing, right? I don't understand opiates, but I do understand detox, and all the other things, because I've been through it myself, right? And it's a health issue, and you got to make sure that it's there when people need it. Jesse, one more.
Well, it was directed toward the, yeah, so. Next person, we'll bring you the mic.
Thank you, everyone. Under our current system, millions of votes are not equal in contributing to the composition of government. Look around. The youth have lost faith in the electoral system. The majority of Canadians support electoral reform and proportional representation. We'll fix that by making all votes count equally. If elected, will each of you advocate for a citizens' assembly, for proportional reform, and what specific steps will you take to ensure we get a fair voting system for everyone?
Try to be quick. You might just be able to do yes, no on that one.
I am one of those people who have lost faith in our government, which is why I'm standing up right now. To be honest, a lot of you aren't going to like this, but I have never voted in my life. And I believe in the People's Party of Canada so much that I am here right now as a candidate, standing up for Canada, standing up for the youth. What was, can you repeat that last part of that?
What specific steps will you take to ensure we get a fair voting system?
That's a good question. Very well thought there. That would have to be, discussed and within the House of Commons. It would probably end up being a vote, and I would honestly have like a yay or a nay on the certain topic. But I would advocate for more of a community vote, because I believe that it's up to the community. Like for example, the highway that I want to, that connected to Barnett Highway. That's not my decision. That's your decision. So yes, I do agree that we need to have more community engagement, and decisions should be made by the people. And that's why we are the People's Party of Canada. Thank you.
Can we agree to maybe just do a minute so that a lot of those people's questions can get answered? Thanks.
Okay, a minute is good. I've said in 2 elections now that this is one issue where I've had to go door to door and apologize to anybody because it was a promise that I made that 2015 would be the last election after first past the post. I'm happy to repeat that apology this evening. But everyone is not innocent in this either. I see Michael nodding his head. We were in this split system where the Prime Minister thought it was inappropriate to change how we vote for elections without a consensus. We had people that were in support of proportional representation who made this kind of fake measurement of proportionality so that it would exclude the Prime Minister's preferred system of alternating ballot. And then we had the Conservatives who said they would support anything as long as we had it go to a referendum, knowing that the referendum would fail. And when I said that previously, everybody's like, you're just saying that, blah, blah. Then we had 2 referendums, one here and one in Prince Edward Island, and they both failed. So I'm open to alternative systems. I just want to make sure that we're not changing for change's sake, that we're looking for better social and economic outcomes as well.
Yeah, it's a bloody shame that they broke that promise, and that we have to do strategic voting again. It's terrible. So short answer, yes. We would definitely be advocating for a thing that you wanted, but it's got to have a proper question, a question that is clear. And I think that the people want mixed member proportional representation. They don't want this ranked ballot situation where the Liberals are always everybody's number 2, because that will put them in power forever. And that's why Justin Trudeau didn't want to go with mixed member proportional representation. The size of the ridings should increase by twice as large, so that you still elect somebody to be your member of parliament, but then the other seat is allocated according to popular vote.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not going to talk about Trudeau and last First past the post election. Can you hear me okay? Okay. Okay. Fair Vote Canada has done a number of surveys. Fair Vote Canada has done a number of surveys, and the Conservatives, the NDP, the Liberals, not sure about the People's Party, the Bloc Québécois, and the Greens have given 60 some odd, 67% support for proportional representation.
But this question has been answered.
Yes, I'm coming right to it.
Okay.
What is each of your positions on proportional representation? How will you, if you're in favor of it, how will you try to put it into effect?
I just gave my answer about mixed member, totally, that's what my personal opinion is, mixed member proportional. The ridings should be twice as big. You get one elected representative and the other is allocated according to popular vote.
So, funny because people talk about proportional representation, but a lot of people mean a lot of different things because there's a lot of different types of proportional representation. We had Michael describe one of those types. And in fact, MMP have different types. You have the ranked list and everything else. Personally, because I had several town halls on this and we talked about it a lot, there was aspects of MMP that was very appealing. It kind of fit my style of being, nonpartisan outside of elections, liberal during elections, because it encourages you to have a big tent and to go out and reach out to individuals that you might not otherwise reach out to and work together. The alternative ballot approach, which the Prime Minister liked, he liked it because it did the same thing. It brought in a big tent. And I would challenge that just means by default that the Liberals would always get elected, and that's why he liked it. I think he liked the idea of having centrists and people that were building big tents and finding common ground. I think that's the reason that he liked it. But every party would adjust to whatever system it was, so there's no guarantee that the Liberals or any other party would do well in any system.
I agree with polls, but it can't just be online polls. Like, for example, you got that, multiple people can, create different accounts and vote for the same thing. I believe that, just something like this, like a ballot, would be the best way to vote. You're going to have some sort of, community engagement on decision making. I think it'd be a little bit of both, but yeah, representing the people based on what they want, not what I say you want or what any of us say that you want.
Thank you. Next question. Here comes the mic.
Where do we need to stand here? There we go. Canada's the most resource-rich country in the world, but Canadians don't seem to be benefiting that. Otherwise, they'd be some of the richest people in the world. In the 80s, there was talk of naturalizing our resources. Brian Mulroney was the kibosh on that, on instructions from his boss, Ronald Reagan. So my question is, do you support the nationalization of our resources so that we can get fair value for them? Norway gets 80% of the value of a barrel of oil, and we get the Ralph Klein 1%.
You've asked your question. Thank you.
It's one of the things that's in the preamble to the Constitution of the New Democrats is that we believe in the nationalization of national resources. Short answer: yes.
I'm going to have a slightly longer answer. Canada is a resource-rich country, and we have great benefits because of that. In fact, 40% of publicly listed mining companies worldwide are Canadian companies. So the current system has actually done incredibly well for us. But it's like with raw logs, it's like with any raw resource that we have here. We have spent too much effort kind of exporting the inputs and not focusing on the refinement, the value add, manufacturing, and creating more value locally. With regards to nationalization, like, no, I'm not in favor of it, but I would say that we shouldn't be afraid of the government owning things. I mean, there are resources that we do own and are nationalized, and we should tap into those, right? We have vast amounts of land that are already publicly owned today. But I also think when we're financing big projects, when they have cost overruns and they come back asking for more money, we should be getting equity in those projects in return, not just coughing up more money for no reason.
Yes, we are technically sitting on a gold mine. You know, we need to be mining, we need to be digging, we need to be creating more jobs in Canada. We need to, have more support for our workers in Alberta, in BC here. We got lots of mines in BC. We've got, a lot of stuff that we've got to deal with. Like, this is not just digging. We gotta negotiate. We gotta do a new USMCA trade deal. We need to talk to the United States. We need to share, cross-border, like factories on both sides of the border. We can't just rely on what's going on right now. There's a lot of promises, right? There's a lot of talk here. You know what I mean?
Thank you. Next question. It's going to be for all of you. We are within days, I'm going to be voting in the advanced polls, and none of the parties have costed their platforms. All I see is everybody making all these big promises that are going to cost us, the taxpayer who has to supply the money, lots of money, and we're already running a $62 billion deficit. And so I would like to know why we haven't got costed platforms from the parties. And just one comment on the environment. My son is a forestry engineer working in this province, and the federal government has signed a contract with this company in BC, $93 million to replant trees in the northern part of our province. I will sit down and listen to your comments.
Sure. Well, thank you for the question. I think it is important to have costed platforms. Mark Carney has promised that the Liberal costed platform will be available before advanced polls. So that should meet your deadline. And it's important for all of us to have costed platforms. And that is specifically true of the Conservative Party, because Pierre Poilievre has promised for every dollar of new spending to make a dollar of all about the spending. He has told us all about the tax cuts, which are very expensive. He hasn't talked about the other side. He hasn't told us how he's going to make up the difference. I don't expect to get a costed Conservative platform, but if it is there, I'm going to be very interested to see what's on the cost side. I don't expect to see it, though. With regards to federal contract to replant trees, I don't know that particular contract. We are in the process of planting 2 billion trees as part of our climate commitments, and I think we do invest in reforestation, but I'd have to get more details on the specific contract to get back to you.
I think planting trees is beautiful. I really like what you said there. Now, we got a lot of students in school, and I remember going out back in the 80s, planting trees in my classroom, right? And then they grew. We got an issue in the lower mainland, no, sorry, not the lower mainland, in the interior, where forest fires are raging like every year. You hear it on the news, like, you can see the smoke here, years back. We need to have a forestation department that gets rid of all of the dried up material that could catch fire, and fresh trees would prevent forest fires. So yeah, if everyone planted 10 trees right now, then Canada would be a healthier place. That's what I believe too.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, yeah, there is a commitment from the New Democrats to have a costed platform by Friday when people start to go to the polls. And I'm sorry, I kind of missed the last part of the question in regards to, I think the contract. Yeah, I think that 2 billion trees, I think that Jonathan Wilkinson has been talking about that, and I think they're on track to do it, which is a good idea in my opinion.
Thank you. Next question.
Good evening. Thank you, gentlemen. My name is Rob Haynes. I'm from the Burnaby North Seymour Conservative Association. Mr. Beach, you have many times brought up the ghost of Stephen Harper, so how about instead we bring up the ghost of Justin Trudeau, and let's talk about the tripling of the national debt, and also that we pay over $1 billion a week in interest to service our debt. So I'd really kind of like to know how you, and perhaps also the other candidates as well, how your parties would deal with the fact that we spend $1 billion a week on interest payments when we could buy a whole lot of other things. Mr. Charbois, you mentioned about we have an income problem. Well, maybe because $52 to $54 billion a year is paying interest. So maybe that's income that's more available.
That's good. And I hear cell phones ringing, so can somebody please turn it off? Thank you.
Hi, Rob. Thank you for being here and thank you for the question. Well, with regards to fiscal responsibility, I'm actually quite proud of our track record. As I said previously, we reduced our debt to GDP ratio every year outside of the pandemic, and we've returned to that track. We've got inflation under control. We've got interest rates down. When you talk about the percentage that we pay on interest, it is less than 2% of our GDP. In the 90s, it was close to 6%. In the United States, it's over 5%. We actually got it down to below 1%, but of course we had to do an unimaginable amount of spending during the pandemic. And people like to act like that was, like we can ignore that happened. But trust me, it's hard to say because you can never do the counterfactual. You can't tell the story about how if we didn't provide the CERB or keep businesses open, the Canada we would be living in today. All we can do is look at other countries, and I can tell you, and I said this at the start, that we are the envy of the G7 because of our fiscal programs, and we were able to roll out good quality social programs at the same time.
Canada is not broken. Canada is one of the best countries in the world by any metric that you can have. And you know, speaking of the ghost of Stephen Harper, he is somebody who is interfering with our democracy and every democracy in the world through his ironically named International Democratic Union, which is a group of all the people like Donald Trump, the Republican Party, and Modi in India, and Orban in Hungary, who are anti-democrats. And he is pulling the strings with Pierre Poilievre in the background. And, you know, I think that Stephen Harper is somebody who's interfering with our democracy, and he's interfering with everybody's democracy with his ironically named International Democratic Union.
You know, Maxime Bernier is the one that is the economist in our party. He would definitely have a better answer than I would as somebody that's a tow truck operator. There are a lot of things that we can do to forge a $2.2 trillion economy by the 2026 USMCA review. We got plans. I got a lot of stuff here, but nobody's bringing up what we're going to do to negotiate with the United States. So I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay, and congratulations to a young person going to ask a question. Here we go.
Good evening. So my question is, given that it's been a very difficult year for the biotechnology industry and that this riding actually contains one of the largest biotech companies in Canada, would you do anything to support that industry? Biotech.
Biotech. Okay.
Well, I think it's really important to support all industries that are not just drawing water and hewing wood. It's important to invest in biotech. It's important to invest in the film industry because it's labor intensive. It's non-polluting as is biotech. So those are the things we want to do. We don't want to keep just being an economy that is just based on natural resources. As Terry said, we gotta be working on secondary and tertiary manufacturing to use the brains that we have as opposed to just the brawn.
A huge fan of the biotech sector. I spent a lot of time on Stem Cell's first project and followed up on their second one as well. Alan Eves is a true Canadian entrepreneur, provides product around the world. That announcement created the most jobs of any federal announcement in the history of Burnaby North Seymour. Some members from that team actually went on to Electoral, which is another Canadian biotech company. We can use these companies in order to spin off other companies. This is what happens kind of organically in North Carolina. There's no reason with the money that we invest through programs like SHRED or IRAP, and never mind the research and development that we do at our wonderful universities, especially right here in BC, that we shouldn't focus on commercializing more of those technologies, making sure that we have IP that is easy to adapt and to grow. And there's no reason why we shouldn't have internal free trade, one market within Canada. It'll increase our GDP by $200 billion and allow health startups here to go right across the country with no barriers.
Thank you.
Stem cell research sounds like a pretty good thing when it comes to, growing tissues, whatever they do. I'm not really a scientist personally. As long as it's doing something beneficial for humanity, then it's something worth investing in. So the answer is yes, we would invest in anything like biotech that has direct benefits to healthcare and humanity. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, and I believe there are 3 more, and we'll allow those guys to talk, and then we'll wrap it up.
Am I gonna? Okay. Yeah, my question is for all of you, especially considering the extremely terrifying state in the United States for trans healthcare. What are your parties going to do to protect trans people, specifically trans youth, with access to things like medical care, gender affirming care, and HRT?
The PPC believes that one's worth is not defined by their identity, but by their commitment to shared values. We're all here to represent Canadians, regardless of their identity, who they feel like they are. We want to protect our children. So personally, and it goes with our platform, that someone should be an adult when making such informed decisions. We support everyone based on the culture that they choose to live. So our focus remains on the demographics of what our boy and a girl is. Yes. Do we feel that it should be, sorry, thank you.
Next question, please. Or Mike.
Oh yeah, I think we're
Go ahead.
all going to want to
Sorry.
answer it. So So really important, I think, to be supportive of the trans community, and I've tried my best to do that. There's some people in the room that might be uncomfortable by that, in the same way that people were, uncomfortable with the gay community decades ago, and still some are, still today. What I really hate is the fact that people are using this as a divisive issue. They're using it politically. Healthcare is healthcare, and you deserve access to healthcare. Whether you're trans, whether you're gay, it doesn't matter who you are, you deserve access. And we need to be an inclusive society, and we need to respect individuals. And we need to allow parents and families and their doctors to have responsible conversations. And, you talk to some people and you think that this is the only thing that we're debating in Ottawa. And there's a lot of fear mongering that's going around in our communities. And we just need to denounce all of that and just have an adult conversation and just try to be as inclusive and supportive as we possibly can.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I agree with Terry. We agree that schools should be teaching SOGI, sexual orientation and gender identity. We believe that. We believe that people are people, and they're not transgendered folks are not the boogeyman. I mean, we have a volunteer who comes into our office regularly, a volunteer who goes into Jonathan Wilkins' office regularly, and they just want to be of service to help out, so they volunteer. They just want to come by for a cup of coffee and a bag of chips. And people are people, and gender is not sex. We all start off as female for the first month of our lives in the womb before we turn into male or female.
I think we should end it there. Next question, please.
Hello, my name is Tanya Alvin. I'm a resident of Indiana. My question is for Terry Beach. I would like to know what your position is on the Port Authority attempting to remove property owners' rights from our own foreshores, adjacent to our homes of Indian Arm, all over the west coast of BC. The contract we've been sent to sign, or else, is an attempt to force people to give up their property rights. This is very intimidating when you live water access only. What is your position on this very critical matter in the riding of Seymour Burnaby on both sides of the field?
Okay. It's the port, right? Okay.
Well, thank you very much for this question. I asked quietly because I wasn't sure by the question if this is the docks issue. And I'm not admittedly 100% up to date where this stands currently. I only know kind of tangentially about it because a couple of people have complained to me about it, but also 5 years ago as the Parliamentary Secretary for Transport. The fact is that if you have a home with a dock, you should be able to have your home with a dock. And whether it's grandfathered or otherwise, that right shouldn't be taken away from you. That's my personal opinion. Now, when you get into the individual situations of who bought what, when, and what covenant was there and the like, that can get very specific very fast. But if you're dealing with a specific situation, I would ask you to call me and I will help represent you with Transport Canada and make sure that your rights are protected. But I can't give you any guarantees of what the outcome would be without knowing the very specific details of your case, but I'm happy to look at it.
Thanks, Terry. Last question. Oh.
And I just want to say that because that's what Terry is there for, to represent you when you have an issue. And that's what Susie Chant is there for if you have an issue in the jurisdiction of the province. And that's one of the nice things about a representative is that they will represent you in these things. And I would pledge to be just like Susie, take every meeting that comes and represent you in that situation because it's very important and that's the job.
Thank you. Now, last gentleman.
Well, First of all, I'd like your opinion on how you feel about industries like laws setting their prices. They agree to set the price, they get a fine. Well, that's part of doing business. And both the Liberals and the Conservatives get their election funds from those two grocery companies.
Thank you. I think it's price fixing or something. Is that it? Thank you.
Thank you for that question, sir. First of all, in Canada, you can't get donations from corporations, only from private individuals to a maximum of $1,750. So I don't think I've ever received any funds from a grocery store. But with regards to groceries and grocery pricing, there are some things that we have done that I think are very important that are to increase the teeth that the competition agency has, but also there have been at least six foreign grocery providers that have wanted to enter Canada. And for a long time, they were unable to, and for a very obscure reason. They weren't able to enter Canada because in order to compete at the scale of our current grocery oligopoly, you need to be able to sign 150 leases all at once and put up warehousing operations and build at a scale that is at a similar size. But there were these exclusivity clauses that grocery stores had whenever a new mall went up, where they'd lock it down so that they could never, no competitor could come in at that scale. So I will say just two things to close. One, we got rid of that, so that is no longer a thing. So now we can go out and attract more competition. But that is the very reason why we need to have very strong competition laws, because that is absolutely unacceptable.
Yeah, but the Competition Bureau is toothless. All they can do is make recommendations. And we know that the 5 big grocery companies are colluding together to jack up the price. And the grocery stores, like Loblaws, have made record profits, 195% increase in their profits since 2019. And they're just greedy. And what we're going to do is we're going to stand up to those greedy grocery CEOs to lower grocery prices by capping the cost of groceries. We're going to scrap the GST on grocery meals, diapers, kids' clothes, way more. We're going to implement, like I say, a price gap on essential items so working families can put food on the table. You know, and you're right, Claire. I mean, Jenny Byrne is Loblaw's lobbyist, and she works for the Conservatives. And both of them, the Liberals and the Conservatives, will always roll over to the billionaires. And, you know, the New Democrats, we stand up to billionaires and want them to pay their fair share.
Also, one of the Conservatives, Walter Harvard, they cut my health care.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Now the candidates will have an opportunity to make their closing comments to you, and I'm going to start with Michael. 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Hey, you know, I don't do this for money. I don't do this for I'm a New Democrat in North Vancouver, right? I don't do it for the opportunity to actually gain power. I do it because I'm an artist, and there are no artists in the House of Commons. Now that Charlie Angus is gone, there's none. It's full of lawyers, it's full of business people, and I want to remind all of us about the importance of the arts. I want to, because it's something that brings us all together in celebration, and no matter color, creed, political bent, you know, that's why it's called the Harmony Arts Festival in West Vancouver, because we all get together and we celebrate. So I just want to encourage us to remember the poor artists when the austerity budgets and the cuts are coming, because they're coming. And I want to remind us that it is Canadian Film Week. So, you know, stand up for Canada by sitting down and watching a film. I just watched my good buddy Leslie Bland's film today, Sweet Summer Powwow, down at the Vancouver International Film Festival. You don't have to pay to watch Canadian films. You can go on to CBC Gem, which is free.
Stop the Disney. Stop the Netflix. Take CBC gems. CBC is a gem, and we don't want to be cutting CBC. Shameless self-promotion. I got a film on CBC Gem called When Branches Bend. I play an entomologist. Go and check that out. When Branches Bend. Am I promoting the arts or is it just shameless self-promotion? I'll leave it up to you to decide. And hey, thanks, grandmas, for coming in. And grandmas, they buttonholed us on the way in. This is Grandmother's Advocacy Network. And I tell you, the Americans, they've reneged on their international help for things. We wouldn't. Thanks, everybody.
I've tried to build a reputation over the last 10 years as a trusted representative. You know that if you're in trouble, you can come to my office. I'm going to take action. I'm not going to brush you off. When we had the pandemic, I spent 73 days alone in the constituency office being a glorified travel agent because our very well-traveled community had people stuck on cruise ships off the coast of Florida, church groups in Peru with the airport closing. And that was my job because nobody else could go into the office at that point because we had health restrictions. So when, things get serious, I'm a very serious guy, and I do not take this job for granted. I spend every day trying to make one of the most efficient offices in the country with the resources that we have. And I can legitimately say that I'm a better MP today than I was in any of the last elections. I have experience as a parliamentary secretary. I've now built a ministry and delivered results. I know how to get things done to an extent, and at a time, frankly, when we need experience. My Conservative opponent, who is not here today, has promised everyone to be the hardest working MP in Canada. But he hasn't even shown up to this debate. In the last 2 years, I was named the hardest working member of Parliament in Canada. I literally have the award on my desk at my office in 2023 and 2024, Best Constituency MP and hardest working. I say that not just because of me, but because we have an amazing team, an amazing system, and we will be there for you. And I think the contrast, I'm very sad that my opponent wasn't here today to convince us all that we don't need a CBC or to convince us that he actually would be the hardest MP in the country. He has run in 2 previous elections, one in East Van and one municipally, where he finished last out of any party representative. So I do not have faith in a Conservative candidate in this riding to represent your best interest. I think Mark Carney, and I think myself, and I think the Liberal plan is the best option given this very crucial election. And if you don't believe that, please give me a call.
Thank you.
I'm going to be the first to admit, these fine gentlemen here, Terry looks a lot better in person than I thought that he did, bro. And, you're definitely a very charismatic gentleman yourself there, So either way, the decision's up to you. I'm just a regular person, not a seasoned politician. Do I even have a future in politics? I don't know. I have a regular job where I care about people. I would like to make a change for Canada because I see where it is right now. So yeah, the decision's up to you. I'm not going to try to, say anything that's, going to put me on the top here because, I think we're all fine gentlemen here sitting at this table. Thank you.
I'd like to thank all of you for sticking it out as long as you have. And on behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to thank you for joining us this evening. I hope you found it helpful in making your voting decision. And how many of you now know who gets your vote? A couple of hands that didn't go up. Okay. And to the candidates, Thank you for participating in this evening. I hope you feel that your time was well spent. And before I adjourn the meeting, if you're interested in getting involved with your local community association, speak to any one of us on the team here. We would love to have you participate. And with that, this meeting is adjourned. Good night.